We have coming in with us the following guests: Phil Rucker, senior Washington correspondent for the Washington Post. Also with us, Charlie Sykes, columnist and editor-at-large of The Bulwark, and Kimberly Atkins-Storr, senior opinion writer for the Boston Globe and co-host of the hashtag Sisters-in-Law podcast. All three are MSNBC contributors. Charlie, you have been as fierce and perceptive and scathing a critic of your former friends in the Republican Party as anybody I know, and I know you're not a big fan of Fox News Channel, but what does it say to you that Jesse Waters, the guy who the last time we talked about him on the show, we talked about him because he was telling people they should ambush and take a kill shot at Tony Fauci, that man's now one of the main faces of Fox News in primetime?
Well, it tells you that the arc of Fox News is bending toward more clown car, more recklessness, more extremism. Anyone who thought that you would have a certain sobriety or shift to the middle on the part of Fox, look what the lineup is looking like. Look, I mean, this symbiotic relationship between the Fox host and Donald Trump is not really a surprise. There's been a lot of reporting about all of this, about the rise and the dominance of the entertainment wing and Donald Trump's obsession. But what's really extraordinary is to watch the duplicity, the two-faced approach of what people like Sean Hannity say in private in their text messages, and then what they tell their audience. Laura Ingraham saying one thing in private, another thing in public. So I think that anyone who doubted what's happened to Fox News, I think we're not learning anything particularly new, but it's certainly being documented rather graphically.
Kim, talk to me about Jesse Waters and what we can expect to hear from him if his brand of commentary that he's been spouting to the great offense to many people of many different persuasions and stripes for a long time. If he brings that now to primetime, what are we going to hear on Fox News in the 7 p.m. hour?
You know, John, I can't even imagine. I don't want to repeddle or characterize what he has said in the past. I think you've already done a good job of that. But what this says to me is this idea that Fox News would try to recalibrate itself post-Trump, to try to return to something that resembles a news network is not going to happen. We have seen really qualified journalists that used to work there all abandoning ship within the last couple of years, with Chris Wallace being the most glaring example of people who have finally had enough, even though they were trying to bring a modicum of actual newsworthiness and reporting to that organization. It seems that has all been given up, that the network is banking on appealing to Trump supporters. And by doing that, they're going to have every Trump acolyte that they can sign to be on that network. I think they should drop the second word in its name.
Yeah, I think, Phil, that's if you read your paper's piece, it puts a very fine point on this reality that's been kind of evident to people for a pretty long time, that the Fox News Channel is not a news channel at all. It's a propaganda network. And I want you to talk about how it worked in those 4 years. You were covering Trump as closely as anyone. Your piece in the paper, not your piece, but your paper's piece, lays it all out in detail. Take us through the way in which the kind of symbiosis between this kitchen cabinet, this cable cabinet at Fox News, how it worked with the White House, how it carried not only carried Trump's water, but how Trump carried a lot of its water in some ways in the White House.
Yeah, John, it certainly was a symbiotic relationship, and my colleagues Ashley Parker and Josh Dawsey have this great piece delving into it and trying to connect some of those dots. What we know from our coverage of the Trump White House over those 4 years is that the former president would watch Fox News almost every night religiously, sort of addicted. The Sean Hannity show, to Laura Ingraham's show, to Judge Jeanini's show on Sunday evenings. And in turn, those hosts would communicate directly into the camera things that they wanted the president to prioritize, policies they would want him to take up, rhetoric they would want him to use in his speeches like the State of the Union or in the tweets that he would issue on social media. And it worked both ways. Trump, in turn, would get on the phone and talk to these hosts and encourage them to peddle certain messages on their shows and to their viewers. Trump had this belief that Fox was the voice, the id of his movement. Fox only has a few million viewers out there in the country, but Trump believed that they spoke for his MAGA movement, for his supporters. And so he thought in order to win over his supporters and maintain their loyalty and allegiance, he had to follow what the Fox hosts were telling him to do.
So I want to put up a full screen here of Hannity. We can move away from Jesse Waters blessedly and move on to Sean Hannity. So much more pleasant a topic. This is the 1-6 committee put out some of these texts. There's a bunch of them here over a bunch of dates at the end of 2020 and into early 2021. Here's Hannity writing to Trump. Or writing to people in the White House. December 31st, we can't lose the entire White House counsel's office. I do not see January 6th happening the way he is being told, meaning Trump. After the 6th, he should have asked me to lead the nationwide effort to reform voting integrity. Go to Florida, watch Joe mess up daily, stay engaged when he speaks. People will listen. On January 5th, I'm very worried about the next 48 hours. January 5th, again, Pence pressure. White House counsel will leave. January 10th, to Meadows and Jordan, he writes, guys, we have a clear path to land the plane in 9 days. He can't mention the election again, ever. I did not have a good call with him today, and worse, I'm not sure what is left to do or say, and I don't like not knowing if it's truly understood. Ideas, question mark? So, and there's a bunch of these texts also from Laura Ingraham, Charlie, and again, it's beyond even asking the question of, like, is this a breach of journalistic ethics? Again, they're not acting as journalists. They're acting as consigliaries to the president, but it does speak to, like, kind of one of the fundamental imbalances between the notion of a conservative echo chamber and the notion of a supposed liberal media. This is a different thing than ideological symmetry between Fox News and the president. This is a kind of co-conspiratorial relationship, and it's at the bedrock of so much that's wrong with the way that information works in America these days.
Yeah, no, it became a feedback loop. We've talked about Jesse Waters and Sean Hannity. Could I just comment? Think about the President of the United States listening to Judge Jeanine and Lou Dobbs. I mean, if you think things were crazy, just think about that for a moment. But